I'm a journalist. For the past 6 years, I've been operating in Zimbabwe as a journalist. My name is Conrad Dube. I've worked for the Zimbabwe Independent, the weekly, and the daily newspaper until it was closed in 2003 by the government.
What is the current press freedom or press situation in Zimbabwe?
Press freedom in Zimbabwe is in intensive care because we have seen the closure of newspapers like the Daily News on Sunday and the Daily News proper and the Tribune and the Joy TV. We have seen mutilation of the free media space that was available in Zimbabwe.
Have you personally suffered any humiliation under this regime?
The traumatic experience that I went through when I got to the office in October 2003, when the Daily News was closed by the government, with having to find armed policemen by the door, taking you into the foyer, and they were not friendly, of course, because of the guns, and they take you into the newsroom and scan through your notebooks, scan through your computer, and it's so traumatic, and until now I still am traumatized.
Has the government by any way tried closing down your blog or even using it, blocking internet access in the country?
The government at some point engaged Chinese to try and snoop into emails and also to try and close down the free internet access that we have had. It has also gone on a clash with some of the mobile operators which are offering gateway services, because they wanted everything to pass through the government so that it could be through the government's own Tel 1 so that it could be easier to monitor. But we don't know whether this has worked, and we don't know if by now they are still snooping into our emails. But there was a bill that was passed by Parliament to that effect.
What motivates you to keep writing and still be in Zimbabwe in spite of the fact that most of your colleagues have fled the country?
I live in a very difficult situation. Imagine you wake up as a citizen and you don't find what you want from the shops. Even if you have the few Zimbabwean dollars that you have in your pocket, you can't find the food in the shelves, you can't find the food, you can't find, the transport goes up every time, medication goes up every time. If you are lucky to find a doctor at a hospital, the prices they charge you, and whatever prescription he gives you, you won't find it in the shops. You have got to go to the private pharmacies where you find these prices, these drugs at ridiculous prices. That means my extended family has also gone up. I live in this situation, so I've got to tell that situation. I feel my obligation is to tell the world and other Zimbabweans who are no longer in Zimbabwe that what is happening in Zimbabwe is this and that.
What advice do you have for your colleagues journalists who are also staying back home to stay protected?
Stick to the ethics of journalism, but be bold. Tell the Zimbabwean story. You are not saying anything bad, you are not saying anything good. You are just telling it as it is. That is my advice.
How would you rate the performance of the Western media in terms of their reportage on Zimbabwe?
Their reportage is also influenced by the fact that most of them do not have Zimbabwean journalists among themselves, and some of them report from South Africa. It would be my advice to them to engage Zimbabweans as their correspondents from Zimbabwe, instead of having somebody domiciled in South Africa but reporting for Zimbabwe and just scanning through in the internet in the morning and then produce reports. Zimbabweans are equally trained as journalists and they are able to do the job.
What is the hope of press freedom in Zimbabwe?
There is no hope, because the agreement that was signed in the power sharing agreement between Mugabe and Morgan Tsvangirai, it encourages governments which are hosting radio stations and websites outside the country to stop that. But it doesn't give an express requirement for the opening of newspapers that were closed in Zimbabwe. So I don't see any hope in terms of the media, as it were.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
You are welcome.